Talk too fast for radio.
Okay.
All right.
Hey, thank you guys for having me here. My name is Randy Miller. A little bit about myself. I have been in radio my entire life. I did a crazy morning show for many, many years. I would do something crazy, I would get fired, and then we would move around the country. I got fired a lot. And so my wife and I, Renee's here, I actually won her in a radio contest. I really did. I was working in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, doing a morning show. This is when I was starting out my career. I was 21 years old, and all I wanted to do was meet women. So I came up with a contest called Birthday Fantasy. And I said, if you send me a picture and tell me what your birthday fantasy is, then you may win your birthday fantasy. I got one entry. And it wasn't even a picture, it was just a letter that said somebody wanted to have dinner, a free dinner with me. And so this was back before any kind of delays or taping or anything like that at radio stations. Everything was live. So I called Renee up at her law office where she worked. She answered the phone. I said, Renee Beldam? And she said, yes. I said, hey, it's your lucky day. It's Randy Miller. And she said, who? And turns out her coworker had written the letter. And she was howling in the background. And all of this is on the air. And I said, listen, I've already bought the dinner, so you got to at least have dinner with me. And she said, only if my coworker comes and we meet in a public place in case you're a creep. So we did. We met in a public place, we had dinner. The 18th of this month, we will have been married for 43 years. So it's working out. I mean, really, so far so good. But I was in Kansas City. We came to Kansas City for the first time in 1984. I did the morning show on several radio stations there, including a great one called Q104 for many, many years. And for the last 15 years, I've been doing a show, which is part of the reason why I wanted to get into this campaign, because I have such a heart for veterans. And I'm not a veteran, but I've been doing a radio show, a nationally syndicated radio show called National Defense Network for 15 years. Started with the national headquarters of the VFW with a Vietnam vet, and he and I did it for a few years, and then he retired and I took it over. So it's a weekly show, it's a 2-hour show. If you want to, you can watch or listen to the show. It's at nationaldefensenetwork.com. You can check it out. But it's just my honor. I had no idea how much veterans, even after their service, they come back into the community and they go perform service. I mean, all of these different ways that they serve their communities is just unbelievable. So I want to take care of veterans. That's one of my main goals. I mean, obviously healthcare, housing, affordable housing, but helping farmers and veterans, that's in my heart. And I had the great opportunity to spend an hour today at this crazy, incredible Webster County Health Unit, and Scott Allen up there. Guys, I'm blown away. I was blown away. I mean, the things that they are doing up there, not just in treating the communities, but in preventing diseases and all of this prevention and working with schools and veterans. I just told Scott, I said, this ties into what I'm all about as far as my platform, because there are veterans now, especially in rural communities, that have to drive 45, 60, 90 minutes to get to a VA clinic. Well, you know what happens when that happens? They don't go. And so that's the thing I love about what Scott is doing up there. He's making it accessible for everybody. And what I want to do, and Scott and I talked about this when I was there, I want to take what you're doing in Webster County, and I want to make it national. I want it to be a national model, and I want the VA to fund it. So it's not just veterans, it's taking care of everybody. It's taking care of farmers, it's taking care of kids, it's taking care of seniors, and it's all funded by the VA. And that's one of my biggest platforms. I think it's divine intervention, honestly, that I was able to see Scott and see what they're doing up there, because things they're doing I've never seen before. And I've visited Kansas City Health Department, I've visited Children's Mercy, and all of these great medical institutions, they don't look at prevention because of insurance, right? A lot of times it comes down to insurance. And I want to go I mean, besides just health care for everybody, I want to go one step further and say, I want to get rid of all of these prior authorizations from your insurance company. I want to put the decision on your life or your procedure back into your doctor's hands and not your insurance guy. I mean, it's ridiculous. Sometimes you got to get 2, 3 prior authorizations before they'll even say yes. I call myself a common sense Democrat. That's my platform because, and I'll kind of tell you what that is. There's no common sense in Washington at all right now, and I'm talking about both parties. And I want to be a common sense Democrat, the Democrat that I grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee, and those kind of people that get things done. Not yelling, because when you yell, nothing gets done. I want to listen. I want to listen. I want to talk to you. I want to talk across the aisle, and I want to get things done. It's a great example of that. The last great common sense Democrat from around here was the late, great Ike Skelton. Ike Skelton was one of those kinds of Democrats. And the reason I know that is because right after the invasion of Panama, this is in 1990, 20 days after Noriega was captured, I was on the radio, Q104 one morning, and I get a call from a soldier in Panama. And I said, what's the one thing you miss about Kansas City the most? And he said, man, I'd love to have a White Castle hamburger. And I said, really? He said, I just love White Castle hamburgers, and they're hard to find here in Panama. And so I called White Castle. They said, okay, we can do that. We can do that. We just need a C-130 cargo plane. So I called Ike Skelton. Ike Skelton said, let me work on it. 2 days later, he joined forces with Bob Dole in Kansas. Imagine that, a Republican and Democrat working together. About a week later, my promotions director and I were on the C-130 cargo plane out of Miami. We delivered 10,000 frozen White Castle hamburgers to Panama. You have never seen happier people in your entire life. Now, they didn't tell us that when they picked us up in the LAV, that they would be still some light ammunition fire. That was a little bit of a surprise, but that's the kind of thing I've found all my life, and I've been in communications all my life. Common sense sometimes leads to common ground, and I truly believe that. And it boggles my mind sometimes when you see things in Washington happen and they come to this stalemate and they don't want to talk to each other and your idea is stupid. Nothing gets done like that. The other part of my deal is Mark Alford. So when Mark Alford wanted to put an ICE detention center near my backyard, that's kind of when I get fired up. I got a little fired up. And I've known Mark, because when I was doing mornings at Q104, he was the anchor man on Fox 4. So I've known Mark quite a long time. I know, I didn't really know Mark, as it turned out, because I even had him on my podcast when he was running for office. I didn't really know what he was going to do or who he was going to attach his lips to. But now that I do, I can beat Mark Alford. I know Mark's vulnerabilities. I know his weaknesses. I know how to exploit those. And the one thing I would encourage you today, when you look at the field of Democratic challengers in the 4th District, they're all great people. They're all passionate people. They're all in it for the right reasons. They all have great hearts. Make sure they can beat Mark Alford. Because guess what? If you get through the primary, you don't beat Mark Alford, we all lose again. And this, I think you're right, Joel, this is the time, man. I mean, you can just feel it in the air. People that are questioning, people that don't understand what's going on, people that are sick of both sides of the aisle, and people that want some common sense in Washington. And that's what I'm gonna bring. I mean, it's so funny that we're meeting in an elementary school because I'm sorry, teachers. I'm sorry. Teachers just have a rough deal in Missouri. They're 49th in starting salary. They're 48th in regular salaries. Man, I can't wait to go to Missouri and become a teacher. I mean, how do you attract quality teachers with that kind of a record? We got to pay teachers more. I want to make the minimum wage $25. I love the Keep Your Pay Act that's being discussed in Washington right now, because that's for people starting out. You know, people starting out now, it's almost impossible to make a living and keep things going, right? We've got two very strong independent daughters that just have it rough. I mean, that's just how it is with prices and no affordable housing. What I want to do is, until you make $75,000, until you earn $75,000, you pay no taxes. You pay no taxes. You get a little breathing room. You get a little fresh air. You get time to make your mistakes. You get time to settle yourself. And so this Keep Your Pay Act, I am very much in support of, and would give young people especially a fighting chance. As far as the other things on my platform, yeah, I think we're all in agreement to some of those same issues. Now, how you get to those issues, how you convince people to do that, I think is the common sense method. And communication is the key. I've been communicating with people all my life. I found there are three things that break down any barriers between two people that have totally separate ideas of how to run things. It's humor, music, and sports. Those three things, we can talk about those things. We can agree on a lot of those things. And then we can get down to, hey, so what do you think about this? Or let me hear that idea again. And those kind of things, that's where we have to get back to, not just as a district, but I mean across America. That has to be the theme. And I think we can get back to that, because I think people are just so tired of being tired. And that's where I stand with so many of my positions. I've talked to a lot of Republicans, and I've talked to them to the point where they will say, that's not bad. You know, we always raised our daughters to look at the person and not the party, or look at the person before the party. And that's the way I like to view everybody, because if you have a passion for something, I want to hear that passion. You know, Scott up here at the health unit, man, you can just feel his passion. And there's so many smart things that he's doing for seniors. And it was just like I said, man, you're singing my language right now, man. And so that's one of the things I'm going to work. Depending on how this race goes, however it goes, I'm going to work with Scott to make that a national model and hold Webster County as the model for the nation, because nobody's doing that stuff. And I told Scott up there, I said, Scott, this sounds a lot like common sense. And he agreed. So that's my position. I'd be happy to take some questions. Louise?
As a veteran, thank you for your.
I'm not a veteran.
No, I am.
Oh, you're a veteran?
Yes.
Well, thank you.
Speaking as a veteran,
Yes.
thank you for your concern for veterans. I think you're a little off the mark to make the VA pay for social health problems when we have other programs, national programs like Medicare and Medicaid.
Well, I mean, that doesn't get you to a clinic, though.
Well, I'm sorry.
I mean, that's.
And the answer to your question, what about driving 45 or 90 minutes to a healthcare facility? It's called community care, and it works very well in VA.
Where do you go? I know there's a VA here.
The clinic is here.
Yeah.
But if I need care that can't be offered at the clinic, and they say the med center is in Columbia, I
Yeah.
said, no, that's a long drive for me to go to Columbia. How about Springfield or Lebanon? And
Yeah.
So
What-
they will make an appointment for me to get whatever those services are in the civilian.
What if you're living in Butler, Missouri? If you live in Butler, Missouri, there's nothing in Butler, and there's a lot of cities like that.
Well, how far is Butler from?
In the 4th District.
Huh?
I said, there's a lot of places like that in the 4th District.
Well,
I mean, you know, a lot of times it's a transportation issue. I mean, there are a lot of barriers for veterans to get care in rural areas, as you well know. And whether it's the VA or, I mean, Medicaid's not a bad choice. I just think that some national entity needs to fund these satellite facilities that can accommodate veterans and everybody else. You know, farmers.
See everybody else part that I've got an issue with when the VA should fund it. And I just don't agree with you.
And that's fine. So farmers, as you guys know, and we live on a horse farm in Lone Jack, Missouri, and so we have a great appreciation for especially hay and alfalfa farmers, and these guys are suffering. I mean, they're families that are suffering. Suicides are at an alarming rate, not just with veterans, that's a pretty well-known problem, but with farmers. And how would you like to be the first person in your family, 5th generation, that loses the family farm? And that's where we are. Did you know, and I was just recently made aware of this, the Agriculture Committee in Congress has no representation from Missouri. Did you know that? We demand a seat at the table. They're making decisions for Missouri without us being there. So that's the first thing that I would do. I would bring back the subsidies that have been taken away from all these farmers. And then you think about, how about the next generation of farmers? I visited a place in Raytown, Missouri. What a great nonprofit called Boys Grow. Boys Grow. They take kids from the urban areas that are 14 to 16 years old, and they teach them how to farm. They teach them how to farm, and then they help them to start their own farm. They teach them to apply for loans, to find a parcel. I mean, what a great, and there are groups out there just like that. And also, when I was up at Webster County.
Do you want the VA to fund that too?
Huh?
Do you want the VA to fund that too?
I can ask them.
Johnny Gordon, isn't it? Johnny Gordon? Johnny Gordon, Boys Grow is Johnny Gordon.
Yes.
Started it.
Yes.
Margaret Gordon is his sister.
I was so impressed, and they had their funding taken away. And it's like there's so many groups that are around there that want to do the right thing, but you know, they feel helpless. They feel like they can't do the work that they need to.
Well, you didn't talk about it, but it's definitely a problem that is arising in Missouri and many states throughout the United States. And right here in Webster County is these data centers that they are putting in.
Yep.
And what type of legislation to prevent that, not only here, but across the nation. I don't think we're going to be able to stop the 2 that are going in here, but in the future, what are politicians thinking about trying to
It's interesting.
regulate these?
It's an interesting question, and one that I've talked about a lot. And you're right, it's a problem everywhere. And I was talking to somebody the other day, and a Republican, and I said, you know, they're building these data centers, and they're putting them in rural areas. And he goes, well, where else are you going to put them? And I go, why do you have to put them anywhere? And so that's something I totally agree with you on, and that I would forcefully address in terms of, and why don't the people of the community get to make that decision? That's what I don't understand. I mean, there's so many things that are being shoved down our throats right now that we don't have a say on. How about, what district are we in? That's a good one. I mean, it's just ridiculous. You know, I asked somebody the other day, I walked into a coffee shop in Blue Springs, Missouri, and I said, are you guys in the 4th District? And the owner goes, I don't know. And I said, well, I'm running for Congress in the 4th, and I don't know. I said, so that tells you kind of where we are, but is that a minute?
Yeah.
Okay. Guys, thank you so much. It was such a privilege to stand up here and talk to you, and I would welcome you to go to randymillerforcongress.com, see what I believe, share my vision, and I just, thank you. Thanks for letting me be here.
Thank you.